All right, today let's talk about whether or not you can make money doing this. And I guess when I say doing this, I mean selling ball pythons or creating any sort of business where you're, selling reptiles. And I have my lightning pied mail here for a reason. The first thing I want to say, actually, two things, is one, you need to decide whether or not you want this to be a business or not. And you have to see it through all the way. Think of it like you're starting a food truck, right? You can't just say, hey, I'm starting a food truck and only go through with it partially. You can't just get a folding table and a griddle and set it up where food trucks park and start making food there. You physically need to buy a food truck. You need to buy everything that goes into the food truck. You need to get all of the food to make the food in the food truck. You can't just do it halfway. And that's going to set you back, I'm assuming, hundreds of thousands of dollars of investment to even be able to start selling that food. The 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 catch with ball pythons specifically is that you can go buy two ball pythons for $200 and get them a tiny little rack for $200 and say that you're breeding ball pythons. Well, guess what? That's never going to make you money, and it's probably going to end up losing you money. That's not the creation of a business. Now, the second part of this is this a business for you or is this a hobby? It's okay to want to collect some nice ball pythons and have it as a hobby. And maybe you produce one or two clutches a year and you produce some pretty babies and you keep a couple and just slowly grow it. But you never plan on actually making any sort of a profit off of it. That's okay. You don't have to be a Canova. You don't have to be a Mutation Creation. You don't have to be an Aussie. You don't have to be those people. So you need to kind of figure that out from the start, if not very soon after, because you don't want to start off on the wrong foot with it too far into the game. I knew from the start that I wanted this to be a business, and I still made mistakes along the way. If you start off thinking you want it to be a hobby and you do that for a couple years, it's going to take you a long time to convert that into being a business, especially if you're not making smart decisions for those first couple years. Because even if you do want it to start off as a business, it can take you a while to get to where you want to go. If you do decide that you want it to be a business, you have to plan on seeing it through. This is my 6th year doing this. I started collecting in 2019. And I've been a reptile enthusiast since I was a little kid. And I'm going to be 40 this year. So I've been doing this a long time. But I just started breeding ball pythons in 2019. I knew at that point that I wanted to start breeding. And I'm at the point now where this year, and my racks are filled up. I've done all of my collecting. I have two 5540s here. I have a 7030. I have a 1065. I have a mini 130. I have a backup rack over here. There's nothing in it. But the rest of these, all the adult racks are almost filled. I've spent 6 years amassing this collection, building it, buying several professional rat racks, starting to do that, having multiple professional incubators here. I have $4,000 in battery backup units here just for the incubator to make sure it doesn't go down. I had a whole separate generator split so that if the power goes out, I can power 10 additional circuits. And I had an electrician come in and put an outlet outside the house so I can hook up a gas generator to it, just in case. I had to get a heater installed into this room to keep this room warm in the winter. That's all investment in your business. And it took me 6 years to get to this point. This is going to be the year where I don't have any more big expenses. This is going to be the year where I'm finally at the point where I'm just pure profit, other than the monthly bills, the electricity, the gas, and the rodent food. Everything else is going to be profit. And it took me 6 years to get here. And I'm just going to say that I'm pretty damn smart, but there were still a lot of hurdles along the way for me as well. So somebody posed a question on Wednesday about whether or not, a lot of people get into this thinking that they're just going to make money. And he's absolutely right. People think they see the gold mine of, oh, people are selling snakes. It's easy. I'm going to make money off of it. And that's not true. It's not that easy. This took me 6 years. And I guarantee you, for the most of you, I'm doing this better than you are. And this took me 6 years to get to this point. For the rest of you, there might be a handful of people, a very small percentage, that are doing this better than me. And that's a hard pill to swallow, to think that the majority of the rest of you aren't. But this isn't just about buying 2 pretty snakes and having 1 pretty clutch. You have to build a whole entire infrastructure. You have to understand the business of this. You have to also get on social media. You have to probably build a website if you want to look more professional. You have to design a nice logo. You have to come up with a smart name for your company. There's a lot that goes into this. It isn't just about breeding 2 pretty snakes. It's a long road. It's a tough road, but it is just like any other business. And you need to treat it like every other business. This isn't going to make you buku bucks in a year or 2. It's going to take a while. I think most people say most small businesses, entrepreneurs fail within the first 5 years, and that's absolutely correct. You're going to fail in this if you don't take it seriously and you don't stick to it. I have never really ended a year losing money. I've always broke even. Basically, every single year, what happens is I either took some of my own. Obviously, you have to take some of your own money to start, because there's no way for you to just get $20,000 out of nowhere to build some infrastructure. So basically, every dime I had for those first couple of years, extra after paying all my bills, I put into buying snakes and buying racks. But then probably year 3, 4, and 5, every dollar I made from snakes, I was either paying off my existing snake debt or reinvesting it into the company, because I haven't taken any profit from the snake stuff yet. It's all been reinvested or paid off existing debt. And at this point, I'm basically even. I don't have any debt left, maybe like $5,000 maybe. And I'm even. So, the only thing I need to do this year maybe is buy another rack and I'm probably going to buy some show displays, because I'm probably going to start getting into doing shows this year, finally. But it took that long to get here. So you have to stick to it. But you can make money if you stick with it in the long run. And the reason I'm holding this lightning pod male here is to show you that it's not as hard as you think either. I bought this male with a female, I believe it was in fall of 2021. And I think I paid $7,000 or $8,000 for them. They were already adults. I got them from a guy out west. I think he was in Colorado. He's getting out of the business, or reducing his collection. I don't remember. And I was like, well, if I'm going to make a splash, it's going to be with this. There's very little MJ Pied stuff going around, very little MJ stuff in general going around. I liked how it kept the colors and the contrast better than the other lines of Exanthic. And I don't think anybody in the US was actually had any sold on Morph Market at that point. It was just stuff up in Canada. So I was like, you know what? I'm biting the bullet. I'm spending the $7 or $8 grand on these snakes. And I did. I got them and I started breeding them within a few months. And they had a clutch by like 10 months later, maybe like July of 2022. Now, my mistake there is I didn't keep any of the female babies, because I needed to recoup some of the money that I had spent on snakes in the last couple of years. So I didn't have the option to really keep those babies because I needed the money to pay off bills. But I think I maybe had 3 males and 3 females. I think the females were selling for $5 grand a piece, and the males were selling for $3,500 a piece. So I made all my money back on that one clutch and then some. And the story that I use is in 2021, I had over 20 clutches. but they were all basic snakes. I think I had one clutch of clowns. Everything else was just codoms. And I made like 35, 40 grand. In 22, I had 4 clutches and I made like 35 grand. Almost the same amount of money and like 16 less clutches. And that's when it dawned on me that I needed to start breeding better and not more. And now I've kind of I feel like I've hit the perfect cross section where the genetics in my collection are, the floor of them is so high that I'm able to produce a lot of nice stuff. And, you know, my gains from each clutch are going to be a little higher. But with one simple pairing, you can blow the roof off of your business. So this is a lot of business strategy. You can't be emotionally attached to what you're doing with this if you want it to be a business. You need to make sure that every single decision you're making is smart, because every time you take a misstep, it's probably going to delay your business growth. So, you know, you really need to talk to other people. You really need to sort of get a mentor. This video is not a plug for my Patreon, but it's going to sound like it turned into it right here. That's why I started doing my Patreon, is to talk to people and to help them figure out how to not make these mistakes. You need to make a lot of business decisions if you want this to be a business. The biggest issue I see with a lot of the people in my Patreon that we talk about all the time, and I've sort of just coined the phrase sausage fest for this, is they have too many males. They have 10 snakes and they have 5 males and 5 females because they're pairing them 1-to-1. And my biggest issue with that, with all those people, is why? You could have 2 males for 8 females and be better served. Just get better genes in those 2 males. Don't have an OD pied, and don't have a pastel or a leopard clown male, and don't have a banana pied. Don't have all these single gene recessive snakes. You need to have 2 males that have a bunch of genes that are powerhouses. Then you have 4 females that are going to be, you know, just staples for your collection that you could breed year over year. This guy's trying to choke me out. He doesn't like me talking about him. And information like that, getting firsthand information and talking to somebody that has experience doing it, is going to infinitely help you if you're planning on doing this as an actual business. So it's not easy. It's not the dollar signs that you see in your eyes floating around your head when you hear that somebody sold a snake for $5,000. It's not that easy. It took me years to be able to get to the point where I'm selling snakes for $5,000. You need to have a reputation, and you need to have products, snakes, that are worth that $5,000. It's not just as easy as just putting 2 snakes together. So you can do it, but it takes a lot of determination, and it takes a lot of smarts, and it takes a lot of education. So you need to understand what you're doing, and you need to understand how to do it. But you can do it.